The outpost on Kyle 7 hummed with the sterile efficiency of a research station at the edge of known space. Dr. Mira Chen stood before the reinforced observation window, her reflection ghosting across the polished surface as she watched the creature inside pace restless circles. Tor, they'd named him after the ancient word for thunder, was barely 3 months old by human standards, yet already the size of a terrestrial wolf. His scales shimmered obsidian black under the habitat's artificial sunlight, and the ridges along his spine pulsed with bioluminescent patterns that betrayed his emotional state. Currently a dull, anxious amber. He hadn't eaten in 4 days. Commander Yaleth, the Vrelnian station chief, stood beside Mira with his 4 upper appendages crossed in what his species considered a gesture of deep concern. "The youngling will perish if this continues," he clicked through his translator. "Perhaps we should consider euthanasia. It would be merciful." Mira's jaw tightened. She'd heard variations of this suggestion twice already this week. "He's scared, not dying. There's a difference. Your species has peculiar optimism regarding creatures designed to kill you." Yaleth's ocular stalks swiveled toward her. "The Krixathi are apex predators. Once mature, Tor would consider you prey. Why do you persist?" "Because that's what humans do," Mira thought, but didn't say aloud. Instead, she pressed her palm against the cool glass. Inside, Tor's head snapped toward the motion, his 3 eyes arranged in a triangle that gave him nearly 360-degree vision, focusing on her hand. The amber glow along his spine flickered to cautious blue. "I need to go in there," Mira said. "Absolutely not. Regulations clearly. He's imprinting behavior from his surroundings, but there's nothing to imprint on. No pack, no parent, no social structure. We took him from a destroyed nest, Commander. He doesn't know what he's supposed to do." Yaleth's translator made a sound like wind through hollow reeds, the Vrelnian equivalent of a heavy sigh. "If you are injured, the Interstellar Conservation Board will have my credentials, and possibly my reproductive organs. I'll sign a waiver." 20 minutes later, Mira cycled through the airlock wearing nothing but her standard research coveralls. No protective gear, no weapons, just a woman and a bowl of nutrient-rich meat synthesized to match Krixathi dietary requirements. The smell hit her immediately, musky, electric, like ozone after a lightning strike. Tor backed into the far corner of his enclosure, spine ridges flaring bright red, a warning display. He was terrified. Mira sat down cross-legged on the floor, setting the bowl beside her. She made no sudden movements, didn't make eye contact. Instead, she pulled out a ration bar from her pocket and unwrapped it with deliberately loud crinkling sounds. Tor's triangular pupils dilated. She took an exaggerated bite, chewing slowly, making small, satisfied sounds. So good," she murmured, knowing he couldn't understand the words but hoping he'd read the body language. Tor's head tilted, that universal gesture of curiosity that transcended species. The red faded to yellow-orange, uncertain but no longer panicked. Mira took another bite, this time holding the ration bar where he could see it clearly. Then she gestured toward the meat bowl with her free hand, nodding as if to say, "See? This is food. This is how we do this." The cub didn't move. His nostrils flared, processing 1,000 scents humans couldn't begin to detect. So Mira did something that would have horrified the Xenobiology Ethics Committee. She reached into the bowl, lifted a piece of the synthesized meat and brought it to her mouth. She mimed chewing, didn't actually eat it because alien proteins and human digestive systems were a disaster waiting to happen. But she made it look convincing. She even went so far as to lick her fingers afterward. Tor took one tentative step forward. Outside the observation window, Mira could imagine Yaleth's appendages tangling in distress. But she didn't break character. She picked up another piece, examined it with theatrical interest, and pretended to eat it with even more enthusiasm than before. The cub crept closer, his massive paws silent despite their size. The bioluminescent ridges cycled through confused purple, then settled into curious green. He was 3 meters away now, then 2, then close enough that Mira could feel the heat radiating from his body and hear the pneumatic hiss of his breathing. She very slowly, very carefully, pushed the bowl toward him. Tor stared at it, then at her, then back at the bowl. Mira picked up one more piece and went through her pantomime again, this time adding appreciative humming sounds. She felt ridiculous. She felt brilliant. Mostly she felt the weight of a life. depending on whether she could bridge the gap between species through nothing but observation and mimicry, the same skills that had carried humanity from cave paintings to starships. The cub lowered his head, his long, forked tongue, designed to taste fear hormones in the air, flicked out and touched the meat. His pupils expanded to full black circles, and then, with the kind of sudden decision that characterized young predators everywhere, he seized the piece and swallowed it whole. The ridges along his spine exploded into brilliant, shimmering gold. Mira didn't move, barely allowed herself to breathe. Tor ate another piece, then another. Within minutes, the bowl was empty, and the cub was making a sound like rocks tumbling in a dryer, which the xenobiology database identified as a Kriksathi expression of contentment. He approached Mira directly now, and for a heartbeat, she wondered if she'd made a fatal miscalculation, but instead of attacking, Tor simply pressed his massive head against her shoulder, the scales warm and surprisingly smooth against her neck. The golden glow pulsed in rhythmic waves. "You just needed someone to show you it was safe," Mira whispered, raising one hand to very gently touch the ridge behind his ear analogs. "That's okay. We all do sometimes." Later, after Mira had exited the enclosure and Yalith had finished his lengthy lecture about proper protocols, the commander asked the question that had been bothering him. "Why would a predator need to learn to eat? It should be instinctual." Mira smiled, watching through the window as Tor curled up in the warming corner, still glowing contentedly. "Because eating isn't just instinct. It's also trust. And trust is learned." She thought about humanity's long history of domesticating the indomitable, of reaching across the void between species with nothing but patience and empathy. They'd done it with wolves that became dogs, with wildcats that became companions, with horses and hawks and 100 other creatures that had every reason to fear them. And now, on a research station orbiting an alien world, a human had done it again, not through dominance or force, but through the simple act of pretending to share a meal. In the end, that was the most human thing of all, the willingness to make yourself vulnerable, to meet another being in the space between fear and connection, and to build a bridge with nothing but understanding. Tor stirred in his sleep, and his scales flickered dream colors across the spectrum. He would eat on his own tomorrow.